Welcome back. The most terrifying images in the Yellowstone period drama offshoot are from the 1923 Indian School, and the fact that the horrifying treatment is based on actual events makes it even harder to watch. The aforementioned scenes from 1923 show the psychological and physical abuse that occurred in a Catholic boarding school for young Native Americans in Montana. The focus is on Teonna Rainwater, who is tortured and punished for speaking her native tongue, for forgetting minor aspects of her teachings, and for whatever reason Sister Mary can think of to try to dehumanize her. When Teonna rebels against her abusers, those in charge of what were then known as Indian schools respond even more violently. Unfortunately, the story of what happened inside these boarding schools is quite historically true, dating back to 1923. The horrifying establishments witnessed in 1923 were genuine, established by Western colonists with the express purpose of attempting to compel indigenous populations that had been uprooted by America's westward expansion to assimilate. Set during a period when reports of abuse in Catholic boarding schools were common in both the United States and Canada, the Indian school sequences make 1923 the darkest Yellowstone story to date. Although they are unsettling, the 1923 scenes that center on this are crucial to the whole narrative. The real history of prohibition and the repercussions of World War I are fictional Duttons. The central theme of 1923 is the Dutton family's journey through the most difficult and depressing period in Montana history, even though the sequences set in the Indian school are eerie and rank among the most memorable parts of the program. The setting takes many cues from actual American history, even though the characters and the details of their stories are completely made up. Not only did the show depict the torture of Native American children like Teonna by nuns and priests during the 1923 Indian school period, but it also very correctly depicted the rise of ranching in Montana throughout the Great Depression, Prohibition, and even the aftermath of the Great War. Season 2 of 1923 is expected to get increasingly darker as the prequel delves even deeper into America's past in the 1920s. The show is set during a period when the federal government openly supported boarding schools to eradicate entire indigenous tribes. The actual account of Native American Catholic boarding schools. These educational institutions brutally forced Native American children to give up their customs and culture. Is there a true story behind 1923? Unfortunately, the story and visuals from the 1923 Indian School are based on actual occurrences that happened in the U.S. in the early 20th century. The appalling way in which Teonna is treated by Father Renaud and Sister Mary is based on true stories of American Indian boarding schools, which were initially made prominent in the middle of the 1800 seconds. Fort Shaw Indian School was the only one of these schools to be established in Montana. But since the 1840s, there have been about 200 more, distributed over nearly 30 states in the United States, with a greater concentration in states like Oklahoma, Minnesota, and South Dakota. As demonstrated in 1923, the so-called Indian schools sought to assimilate Native American students into white Western society by removing their tribal names, converting them to Christianity, and destroying their language and cultural identity. This opened the door for successive generations of Indigenous American children to be treated inhumanely. According to Jennifer Ale, who plays Sister Mary, in her 1923 Screen Rant interview, how Jennifer Ale and Amina Neves explained the scenes from the boarding school in 1923. Filming the sequences in the so-called Indian school in 1923 was an emotional experience, as one might assume given how horrific they were. Speaking about the procedure, Amina Neves and Jennifer Ailes revealed that the initial sequence of Sister Mary abusing Teonna in the classroom was recorded on their first day. As the scene became more intense, Neves clarified that the set was courteous, noting that the two performers both handled it pretty well, and we gave each other space when we needed it. The performers also discussed the viewpoints of each character during the violent altercations. Even though Teonna was exacting revenge on Sister Mary for the nun's own brutality, Neves clarified that Teonna didn't like the hurting, adding that it wasn't an action that she really desired to do, but it was one that she had to do to save herself and everyone in that room. While this was going on, Ailes clarified that Sister Mary regarded herself as a protector in her own perverted manner since she genuinely thought that this was the best course of action for the girls. However, he also pointed out that Sister Mary is full of intense ignorance and damage. For more, subscribe.